It also reminds me of what a Turkish diplomat once said to me, that he thought that the military was a large unelected political party. Just an interesting thought there. If we can now turn to perhaps what is really one of the biggest issues in any society, and that is the role and the enfranchisement of women and the existence of secularism. If Dilek can clue us in on this, because it's an absolutely crucial element in modern Turkey.
Okay, and I also have 12 minutes, right?
You have 12 minutes, but then we'll come back again.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's an honor to be able to present my views and some of my research findings with you. The title of my talk is Women and Secularism, the Headscarf Ban. But I'd rather reframe it as the paradoxes of Turkish secularism for gender equality, because that's exactly what I'll be talking about. So the questions that I shall be addressing to is as follows. One, I'll be talking about, is secularism a woman's problem? Why do we discuss it as such? What's the kick? What's the point? Two, what's the relationship between secularism and gender equality? And three, what are the barriers to gender equality in Turkey, and how is patriarchy reproduced through religiosity or conservativeness? How does it happen in the Turkish context? And what are the paradoxes of the headscarf ban? Does it enable women or disable women? In what ways and how? And what are the implications of headscarf ban in education, as has been discussed so far, and in the labor market, which I will try to draw the arguments towards. And what are the implications of the discriminatory nature of the headscarf ban in the labor market? To what extent it provides women a space for women's agency? To what extent it provides an avenue for conservative Islamists to raise their voices? To what extent it provides opportunities for the secularist elites to see the gender equality implications. And finally, I would like to connect all that discussion to what is the significance of the labor market, which is basically my field. I'm a sociologist. And why would secularism debate should have any room in the labor market discussions in contemporary Turkey. So basically, the main question that I'll be dealing with is there a democratic paradox, as one of the authors has suggested in the latest article. But I'd rather stand for the statement for the paradoxes of secularism for gender equality and the headscarf ban. Well, we discussed women and secularism. I'm answering my questions now. We discussed gender and secularism together in the Turkish context because women's rights have a very special place in the history of Turkish Republic. The gender equality as a norm, both in public and private lives of men and women, has been one of the core elements of the Turkish Republic, regulated through laws since the 1920s. So the gender equality is, again, one of the ruptures, one of the most significant indicators of the rupture from the Ottoman Empire, a rupture from the Sharia and the integration of the secular Swiss civil code, particularly in the family law. So the gender equality in monogamy in marriage, equal rights in divorce, inheritance and custody of the children became a norm in the new civil code, as the scholars of Turkey as already know. But this code had many, as you already know, this code had many deficiencies in terms of gender equality, some of which has been addressed and revised with the 2001 Civil Code Amendment. But what I'm trying to say is that gender equality has been one of the core elements of Turkish secularism, one of the core indicators of Turkish secularism. Therefore, gender equality as a term has been a significant part of Republican ideology, and any dent, especially referring a threat to gender equality in values created tensions. And gender equality here again has been conceptualized as being non-Islamic. On the other hand, the scholars of gender has been pointing out that most of the equalities were simply just on the paper, and the execution of gender equality didn't really take place, particularly in terms of women's bodies and sexualities. And again, as you already know, it took the EU forced to revise the re-evaluation of the honor crimes dealings in Turkey, etc. So a headscarf ban, coming back to the contemporary Turkey, after having stated that the Turkish secularism, within the Turkish secularism, gender equality and the de-Islamization of the everyday code of conduct is a very critical value. Headscarf ban, as you might already know, has been playing a very significant role in the Turkish politics since the 1980s. The main contestation field has been the higher education. Whether women with headscarves should be allowed to enter the higher education institutions has been the main question, which occupied the political field and the public discussions. The civil servants also had their share. Some continued to work without head cover. Most were expelled or resigned after the implication of this ban. The Republican elite, mostly represented through the Republican People's Party, mainly argued that the headscarves are signifiers of Islam, and any sign of religion shouldn't be accommodated in the schools, including universities. Although majority of the Turkish universities are state-funded, this ban also includes both state-funded and privately funded universities. So this debate and discussion has been going on, as I already said, in the last 30 years, 3 decades. Long time. The implications and repercussions of the headscarf ban, on the other hand, in the public life and in terms of the gender equality has not been studied in depth yet. What kind of an impact did the headscarf ban have on the empirical, to the daily lives on women, has not been studied in depth yet. One of the reasons is that headscarf issue is an extremely emotionally charged issue. It reminds the readers, the listeners, the feelings of guilt, shame, anger, frustration, and on everybody who is suffering from the ban, these are the feelings, and the ones who are empathizing are also experiencing very similar feelings. Therefore, it's been very difficult to speak about these testimonies in an analytical way. On the other hand, the headscarf and the headscarf ban is a woman's issue, meaning the other forms of religiousness, the other forms of religious signs, or the other forms of religious, visible religious signs has not been problematized in that manner. Even though in the last 30 years, again, we have witnessed the increasing religiosity and religiousness in the society. Praying rooms, we can go on and on, but it's the head covers that really took too much attention and was able, it was women's headscarf has been eliminated from the higher educations and from the labor market.